Austria, 1882. Joseph Breuer and Sigmund Freud are walking through the streets of Vienna. Freud is 26 years old and still holds high the views of mechanism, a philosophical leftover from the scientific revolution of the 17th century that stated that the universe itself, along with every subunit of it, could be viewed as a machine.
For Freud, a neurologist, this meant that the illnesses of man, whether of strictly physical or mental nature, could be explained by the functions of the body. Everything could be rendered understandable by pure physiology. According to this view, the mind of, let's say, a frog and the mind of a human being did not vary in anything but their differing level of complexity and structural dissimilarity. Breuer is a 40-year-old physician and an old friend of Freud's. During the walk, Breuer shares his experience of a hysterical patient that he had treated recently, Bertha Pappenheim, but Breuer used the alias Anna O to protect her privacy. Breuer told Freud how he had effectively put an end to the extreme fits she'd been having, fits which can be explained as seizures triggered by psychological factors. The method that seemed to help her the most was hypnotism. Using hypnotism, he was able to track back her symptoms to when Anna had to watch over her sick father before he died. He had located the root of the symptoms in her suppressed memory from which her illness had spread.
This patient sparked something within Freud's mind. Are people suffering from hysteria in fact haunted by suppressed memories? Would the remembrance of said memory cure the patient?
But perhaps most importantly, this take on the psychological aspect of the mind seemed to contradict the teachings of mechanical philosophy, because it suggested that the illnesses of man were not only caused by purely physiological malfunctions, but also depended upon thought or cognitive functions.
And how could a memory ever be located or dissected? How could something as fleeting as the thought of a past experience ever be reduced to a bolt in a machine? This revolution in Freud's thinking was to become the foundations of the theories he'd later become famous for. But let's back up a bit and ask ourselves, who is Sigmund Freud?
Sigmund Freud, originally named Sigismund Sloma Freud, was born May 6 in 1856 in a town formerly known as Freiberg in the Austrian Empire, which is now located in the Czech Republic. He is best known for his work in psychiatry, especially for being the so-called father of psychoanalysis.
His work resulted in him being one of the most influential minds of the medical field.
Freud was born into a middle-class Jewish family. He was the first child of his mother, Amalia Freud, but his father, Jacob Freud, had 2 children from previous marriages. The family grew bigger as the time went by. It comes as no surprise to learn that Sigmund was a very good student, with special interest in Darwin and his work on evolution. Sigmund studied at the University of Vienna. Let's take a closer look at the ideas and thoughts for which Freud earned his place in the history books.
Psychoanalysis, even though it's a very complicated phenomenon, it basically just explains the idea that childhood experiences, even though we don't remember them, and unconscious desires influence our behavior. Even though some of his ideas are not very well supported by modern psychologists, the psychoanalytic theory is the one that has stuck with us through time and given all of mankind a helping hand when trying to unravel the mystery that the mind is.
He began dividing the mind, or rather our consciousness, into 3 parts. The unconscious mind, which exists outside of your awareness at all times. The preconscious mind, all information that you're not currently aware of but can be recalled. This can be associated with sitting in a test, not remembering one slight detail. Knowing that you know what you're looking for, but not being able to access it at the right moment. This is a feeling that I think we annoyingly all can relate to. At last there is the conscious mind, which is your current state of awareness.
Included in the psychoanalysis is Freud's theory of personality. Included in this theory are the ideas of it, superego, and ego, the parts of our mind that determine our decisions. This can be explained with an example that is well known to us. We all recognize the devil on our left shoulder telling us to do the wrong thing, or the thing that benefits ourselves the most, the selfish thing. That little voice is the it.
The id is the one that develops first, or the biological component of the brain, explaining why little kids are such self-centered little bastards. the only part of the brain that has developed is the one that tells them to only take care of their own needs. Because the id functions according to the pleasure principle that says that all of our needs should be met immediately.
Superego is the last one to develop. Superego is the little angel on our right shoulder encouraging us to do the selfless thing, the thing that is the most beneficial to society. This component functions according to the ego ideal and the conscience, which is your view of what's right and what is considered wrong.
Ego develops second. Ego is the one that makes the decision of which voice you listen to, the devil or the angel. Most of the time, the ego tries to find the middle ground between the two, doing the right thing by society whilst benefiting from it ourselves. This idea is called the reality principle. Put it into context, its development marks the milestone where the selfish little bastards open their minds up to considering other feelings than their own.
To connect these two theories even clearer, the it or the devil functions in our unconscious mind at all times. The ego or the decision maker operates in the preconscious and conscious mind. The superego or the angel exists in all three levels of consciousness.
In conclusion, Freud is arguably a prominent and important figure when you look at the history of psychology. But as has been said before, most of his ideas and theories have been written off by modern practitioners of the field. These theories were often thought of as being too vulgar and too focused on sexuality, in particular the Oedipus complex.
The Oedipus complex states that every boy secretly wants to murder his father and sleep with his mother.
This doesn't mean that they're necessarily valueless or that it is absolutely useless to familiarize oneself with his writings.
This idea of his, among others, still stand upright as an attempt to make sense of the immense complexity of people's mental issues, of the secrets of the mind. And while he may have been wrong about the exact way of how to solve these problems, his endeavor to crack these mental cases can and should still be viewed and revised, not only to try to discredit him completely or to follow him blindly, but an attempt to learn from him.